The rand remained stable on Friday as the prospect of a government of national unity took a blow after coalition talks between the African National Congress and the Democratic Alliance seemed to have collapsed. Now, the rand was trading at around 18.47 rand against the dollar at the close of business on Thursday. And the rand was trading at just around 18.41 rand against the dollar on Friday at 8:30 a.m. And the rand was also trading at around 19.71 rand to the euro and 23.28 rand to the pound on Friday morning. Let's now welcome political economist Dr Lumkile Mondi to weigh in on the latest development. So, Doctor, a very good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm not sure if you've actually been watching the media briefing there by the IFP, also jumping into the call of course, speedily resolving issues around the formation of the GNU, saying that this actually leads to instability in the country on critical policies, which is what we're going to unpack, me and you, like, of course, your performance of the markets as well as the rand. So talk to us about how you've seen what some of the latest developments has done to the conversations around the GNU.
Firstly, I think it's important for us to understand that this process that we've entered as a country by leading political parties, it's a process that's very familiar in Europe, and it takes long. So therefore, I think parties like the IFP and many others who are now getting tired because the process seems to be taking longer, they should have learned lessons from Europe that, you know, finding each other and building a new government where there is no winner after the election will require us to allow the process to take its course. So I think patience is required. I'm not so worried. We have a democratic process. The president has been inaugurated. The country is functioning. What we need to do now is to slowly come to some conclusion. And I think now that we know that Parliament is meeting on the 18th of July, we should expect that between now and the 18th, there'll be a new government of national unity, whose priority is to rebuild confidence, lay down a framework of reconstruction and development, and put South Africa into a very different path in comparison to what we've seen under one-party rule led by the African National Congress.
And Doctor, maybe talk to us about some of the key concerns, particularly for investors regarding, of course, the current political impasse.
So investors are very happy that at last a party, some of whom saw it as a left-leaning party, indecisive in terms of making hard decisions, therefore requiring other parties to come in and help it. For many investors, that's very exciting. Particularly given that the other parties are market-friendly. We all know that the IFP, listening to Mr. Fengwa, we know the DA and others support market-friendly policies. But more importantly for markets is that there's going to be a huge realignment also of the South African economy to integrate in the global world by taking policies that are market-friendly. So we're expecting the continuation of the privatization of many key institutions, in line with Operation Vulindlela. We are expecting also the appointment of key ministers who are competent and capable in the departments that they are appointed to, but more important also that the bureaucracy itself will slowly professionalize and attend to the challenge of the day. In doing so, deliver to the services of both business and South African households who are so much desperate to get a functioning government and a capable state.
And Doctor, would you say then that the country right now, as we do not have a formal 7th administration cabinet currently in place, would you say the country is currently functioning, albeit on the right trajectory? There's no, of course, any immediate issues that could actually spell out, any damages to the incoming GNU should it take power after, of course, all those disputes have been resolved?
So, because many South Africans are not familiar, particularly the social media commentariat, are not familiar with democratic processes and how institutions are built over a period. So therefore, many of them see these stops and starts as a failure.
Yeah.
It isn't. It is part of the process of developing a new institution. That new institution is called the Government of National Unity, because South African voters want that. They show that in their voting pattern. Therefore, in doing so, we need to realize that the choice that we made on the 29th of May for it to mature is going to take time. But it's under a very competent and capable leader, President Ramaphosa, who is now sworn into a constitution that will abide by the constitution. And therefore, let's allow him to consult broadly and form this government, which is very important to path that new growth and inclusive economic development plan that will ensure that we do the right thing, but also lay a foundation for future coalitions that are going to be part and parcel of our country to make a difference and achieve a better life for all, as our 1996 constitution expects them to.
Absolutely, Doctor. I mean, and there's been a substantial call for transparency, particularly during the latest disputes that we've seen, because a lot of people, particularly citizens, are now saying, you know, we don't know what's really going to happen in the long run. But as an economist, let's talk about this. What are then some of the market expectations for the rand once that actual the GNU cabinet is announced? And also, which economic indicators should we be watching in order to gauge the impact of the current political situation on the rand? And how are these then indicators currently trending in response to political uncertainty, Doctor?
Firstly, let me say this loud and clear, that it is only speculators that are concerned about the rand movement, where it's going, whether down or up. Many investors here in London are concerned about the long-term growth prospect, because they're expecting South Africa to adopt market-friendly policies and provide certainty across many areas, be it mining, be it energy, be it in privatization of key institutions such as the railways and the ports. That's what they're looking for, because the money they're putting won't be paid back in the next 5-10 years, some of it in the next 30 years. That's the signal that South Africans should be concerned with. The rest is just noise about speculators who want to shorten the currency because there's something to gain in an environment whereby we're rebuilding our government and a new state. What we should remember is that this volatility that you're seeing is also happening in the dollar, given the debate we saw yesterday between Biden and Trump. It is happening in the euro, given the coming elections in France, in the pound, also given the coming election there, where it is very, very clear that there's a shift to the right in the international order. And therefore, for South Africa, that seems to be moving to the center. It's a positive. And that's what people should embrace, that we're in a much better position for us to rebuild as we are. It's an opportunity. If we misuse it, we're going to have a problem, because the regime that are coming are going to be quite hostile, particularly the Le Pen regime here in France, the other regime that are coming in America, such as Trump-led Republicans, as well as Nigel Farage regime in the UK. They are all going to be unfriendly to us. So let's build something that's stronger, that puts us in a stronger position, so they can be able to deal with our own issues as we deal with right-wing global order.
Doctor, thank you so much for that analysis. Interesting that you mentioned the fact that those that are watching the rand in terms of which direction it moves are actually speculators, because there was a headline yesterday that even said the rand tanks as the DA threatens to walk away from Ramaphosa's government of national unity. So thank you so much for that clarity, Doctor. As always, great having you with us. That is political economist there, Dr. Lumkile Mondi.